Hey everybody, Daniel here from Basement Tech. Well, we were warned, but we didn't expect it to be quite as soon. The VFD board that we got with our surplus motors, the one that we built into the disc sander and the belt sander, one of the ones, the one on the disc sander, gave up the ghost a few months ago, and I'm finally getting around to replacing it with something. We've had good reports from colleagues on these FMX tough drives from Factorymation, so I thought I'd give one of those a try. The challenge, of course, is in a dusty industrial environment. How do you package such a thing? So, being an electrical engineer, my least favorite part of projects maybe is drilling a whole bunch of holes in a steel plate to mount everything. But the real challenge here was to figure out how do you package such a device for an environment that's going to be a bit dusty. You see fans down here, for example, and this is a long heat sink all across the back, which is really quite substantial, and I really like that idea. Those of you who have been around the channel know I comment about heat being my enemy. So that's a really nice heat sink, but how do you package such a thing to keep as much dust as possible out of the inside of the drive? Well, I'll show you all the bits and pieces and then come back when it's put together, but it kind of goes like this. So here is a big metal plate full of holes. I'm going to save you all of the slow motion montages of holes being drilled and just jump kind of to the end. It's a whole bunch of holes that mount all this stuff on that plate. Then the plate gets mounted on the disc sander frame. So the VFD goes about like that. This junction box will be mounted on the back. Notice a hole here and a hole there. The wires are going to come through from one side to the other. But how do you cover up this rather complex geometry, this complex solid that is sitting in front of me? Well, I do have a 3D printer and I know how to use it. So I printed this little cover. It's going to go about like this. So that will cover the parts of the opening that has the fans and the heatsink. Not going to keep all the dust out. I will admit that right up front. But I'm going to attempt to keep as much dust out as possible while letting some air through. I have this thin filter material that I've used before, and I'm going to cover those holes with these little muffin fan covers, just to keep fingers out of what might be harm's way. And then these little 3D printed frames, if you will pinch that filter material from the inside. I think if we just hit that with a vacuum cleaner once in a while, it's going to be okay. Also, we're not pushing this VFD anywhere near its limit with the disc sander, so I'm hoping the amount of heat that will be required to be dissipated will be low, and we'll see. So those are the bits and pieces. Oh, I should mention this. I picked this up at a Hamfest. Those of you who, again, watch the channel probably saw this. VFDs do generate some noise. I usually just don't worry about it. But I thought since I had that power line filter, I would put that in there. I'll tell you what, I'll bring you back when this is all assembled and put it out on the internet for comments. I think it's turned out rather nicely, and if I must say so myself, the 3D cover is a little bit clever, so I thought I would share it with you. I'll bring it back when it's assembled, give you a look then. Well, there are always more wires than you think there are, and the box fills up faster than you think. Power comes in on the left through the fuses, through the switch, through that EMI filter, and back out the front to the VFD. The motor cables just pass through. Moving around to the front, there is the VFD, and it's humming along. You can hardly hear it at about 5/6, I suppose, of its speed. So I'm going to call this early success. Button it up and make sure it still works. All right, all buttoned up and purring like a kitten. So there are a few things to note. This, of course, is that beautiful 3D printed cover, just to cover the wires that come from the back to the front. And the only question there is, will still being pushed over that massive heatsink on the back. They are also mounted on a metal plate, and this is not a super high load device. So I think we're pretty good there. Last thing to note is this is a 2 horsepower drive. This is a 1.5 horsepower motor. So I hope we're pretty good there. That's kind of it. It's playing along. And again, early indications are this is going to work remarkably well. I'll report back because I think these drives are reasonably priced and have a lot of functionality. This one, if you look at the specs, could be remotely controlled by a computer. Don't think we'll do that in this case, but I think it's a good option. One final thing to note, I know I just said that before, but I did upgrade this from running on 120 volts to running on 220. So we're going to have to do something about our outlet situation. But that eliminates that voltage doubling, and I was never really keen on that in those surplus drives that we got that used to be running on this machine. So this video was mostly a packaging video. I hope you agree. It worked out super well. If you like this kind of video, definitely give it a thumbs up and please subscribe. Thanks again. Bye.